We are live.
Okay, let's see. Looks like we're live. Okay, it looks like as far as Twitter goes, it looks like we're gonna have a little snag on Twitter. It wants us to upgrade to a premium account to be live on Twitter. So that's okay, but we're streaming live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram right now. And we're just gonna give everybody a minute or two to come in and join. We did just start at noon. That was the plan, Eastern time. So we're just going to give some time. I'm going to do a double check and just make sure. It's making me tell Instagram that we're live. So let me tell Instagram that we're live. There's all these triple checkings to do. Okay, now it looks like we're live on Instagram as well. And then I'm just going to check our Facebook page to make sure that we went ahead and got live there. Company. Yeah. Ooh, I see us. Okay. I'm going to get out of there though, because I don't need any reverberations or anything like that. Oh, it looks like we have Drenda on. Oh my gosh, we already have 5 people so fast. Okay, we have Drenda saying good afternoon. Hi, Drenda. She's in the chat box. Hi, Drenda. I'll put a little chat to her. Thanks for joining us. Well, we're really excited. Oh, we're getting more people joining in. So maybe we'll just, Hunter, as I was saying, maybe we'll just kind of just chat a little bit for a minute, kind of, take it easy for another minute or two until a couple more people join in. But we're looking like we have a good amount of people so far.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So
I can't see anything on my side other than the screen. So
yeah, I know. We're learning that since I'm the host, Hunter doesn't get to see all these things that I'm seeing. But so we have Drenda who's typing in good afternoon. Hi, Drenda. And then we have a Brian White saying howdy all. Hunter, you might know these people more than I do. But howdy, Brian. Thank you for joining in. I'm going to send you a little text back, a little text love. For everybody watching, I'm going to be the boring housekeeping conversation for a quick second, just to let you know how the live stream is going to go. And then I'll introduce our special guest. Ooh, I got to go this way. Special guest, Hunter, president of the boat company. But what I want to tell you all is that on most of the platforms you're watching from, which is Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram, you should be able to type into us and ask any questions you want to. As you can see, I've already been responding to some people just saying hi, who have just said hi to us. But if you have a question for Hunter at any time, don't worry about bothering Hunter. He's going to keep on talking. I'm going to be monitoring those comments and questions, and I will interrupt him and ask them if the conversation allows for it. Otherwise, we'll just wait until we come to a pause and we'll get to your question. Our goal is to answer everybody's questions before the end of the live stream. And we're hoping to be about 40 minutes to maybe an hour today, just depending on how things go. We have a Bill Eisler. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Hi, saying hello. Thank you so much for joining, Bill. Okay, so wow, we're getting some numbers joining. How lovely. Well, thank you all so much. So I'll do the introduction. I'm Marissa. I work for the boat company's marketing team. As Hunter says, I am one of the Kool-Aid drinkers. I love the boat company. I've been on one of the trips. It is one of the coolest things in the whole entire world, and I'm honored to be a part of the family. And so now I see a lumpy crab. Great trip memories. Oh, thank you. That must be somebody who's been on one of our trips. Thank you so much. Steve Feiner saying hi. Hi, Steve. Okay, so let me go ahead and introduce Hunter, president of the boat company. In case you all don't know him, I wonder how many people have been on the boats and don't know you. That would be really interesting.
Probably many.
You think so?
Probably.
You don't think you're like an important figure? Well, so he is.
They see my face in the newsletters, and that's about it. So
Hunter's the president of the company, or the nonprofit. Our cruise line is a nonprofit, and Hunter is the president. So he runs the show along with some board members, right? Is that how it works, Hunter?
Yeah.
But so Hunter, okay, so we are just coming off of our 2024 season, which is so exciting. We had a great season, and things are happening right now, even still, even though we finished our last cruise a couple weeks ago. A lot is happening right now with getting those boats moved out of potentially Alaska or wherever they're going. I need you to tell us all about what's happening, what kind of happens after the season ends and what we do. But before that, I think I'd love, again, for those people who don't really know you, Hunter, to just kind of like tell us about you and how you're the president of the boat company and what you do.
Okay. I guess that's kind of easy. The easiest answer as to why I'm the president of the boat company is because I'm a glutton for punishment. I thought working for my father for 20 some odd years, 30 years would be a great idea and a great bonding experience. But I kid. No, I've been involved with the boat company, obviously from its inception. We started as a flicker and a dream in '79 with my parents, with my father, Michael McIntosh, buying a small 97-foot boat and starting the company to bring folks up to Southeast Alaska to show them the Tongass National Forest, to try to get them to fall in love with it the way he had, and then to try to get them to donate to public interest environmental law firms like back then it was called Sierra Club Legal Defense Council. Now it's called Earth Justice, as well as NRDC, who were the ones that were fighting the fight to try to stop and prevent the deforestation of the Tongass. Fast forward over many, many years, a childhood spent during the summers up on the boats in varying capacities as a guest. My brothers worked on the boats as crew, and then as we progressed in our lives, we all kind of did different things for the boat company as we got older. And I took to the boat company, I would say in the mid to early 90s, initially just doing some of the marketing stuff. My father was running the boat company as a not-for-profit conservation organization with a cruising habit. And so we started to try to market it to other individuals other than just the folks that were interested in only conservation and NRGC and Earth Justice and Audubon and Defenders of Wildlife and all the many environmental organizations we worked with. And my position evolved over time into marketing, legislative director, doing trips to the Hill, to advertising, to filing. I pretty much, my father had me doing every possible job in the company throughout my 20s and 30s. To teach me, and at the time I couldn't understand it, but I understand it now, to teach me all the aspects of the business so that if I chose at some point to become the president of the company and take it over from him, which he was hoping somebody would, one of the three of us would do, that I would have all the skill sets needed to do so. And I like to think that I do now. But with technology changes and everything else, I have to have folks like Marissa who can set things like this up, because technologically I'm not as capable as younger generations. But on a day-to-day basis, I'm working on budgets. We're working on marketing and advertising programs. My wife, Amber, who may or may not be watching, hi, honey, is the VP of the company. And she has over 20 years in the hospitality industry and is really helping take us in a new direction, reaching out to a broader spectrum of potential clients and travel agents and whatnot. So we have a lot going on behind the scenes with the boat company that a lot of people don't really see. What everybody sees are the great trips and the as it was explained to me or recently told to me by a guest that went on the final trip of the season. It was a National Geographic television show every day, seeing orca whales feeding on stellar sea lions, which is something I have yet to see. Apparently, they saw a humpback whale with a sea lion in its mouth this summer,
Wow.
which made national headlines because somebody got a picture of it. Well, we happen to have it on video, so I'm eager to see that. So in the 45 years of the boat company being in business, I can say that every single year and every single trip that I've been on, I've seen or experienced something new every time, which is really unique to be able to go on the same trip and have a different experience every time. And I think that's one of the many things that differentiates us from a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hunter, I actually want to ask you, I've got two questions that just came up as you were talking. One's a little bit older, meaning, you were speaking about it a few minutes ago. And then I want to get back into the individuality of the trips and the experience of being on the boats themselves. But I think that the first question is good because it's more foundational. So we'll just kind of pop back to it a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say it as perfectly as you did, but you've mentioned it to me before in private conversations and just regular conversations that we've had that, how your father started the company and you call it that he started it as
a not-for-profit with a cruising habit.
Yeah. Which means that which one was the more of the, so more of the focus was on the nonprofit.
His focus was solely the boat company was started as a program of the McIntosh Foundation in 1980, and the sole focus of the work that was done through the 80s and 90s and into the early 2000s was focused on protection and preservation of the Tongass National Forest, funding and fighting every timber sale that came up in court at every possible opportunity. And that is what my father's, entire focus was on. He ran full articles, or not articles, but full page ads in the New York Times back in the 90s, which I am scared to think of how much a full page ad in the New York Times would cost now. But it was a full page color ad, basically shaming Congress for providing so many subsidies to the timber industry in Alaska, while farmers in the Midwest were going bankrupt and losing their farms. He just had a very unique and much broader picture of the impacts of what was going on in Alaska, and that probably comes from his many decades of working for the Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, the A&P grocery store chain, which was founded by my great-great-grandfather.
So that's what I was also going to ask, well, it wasn't part of the initial two questions, but once you started talking, I think it's important maybe, to mention that it's so cool. Why was he up there, Hunter? Why did he start this nonprofit in Southeast Alaska? What was he doing? How did he even find out about it? Yep. And it's because
he worked for A&P. A&P was headquartered in Rockefeller Center in New York City, and much like he did with me, making me do everything from clean the bilges on the boats to filing stuff and working on Capitol Hill and marketing and advertising. His father did the same thing with him. His father had him do everything from, he was a baker in Chicago for A&P at one point. He worked over in the Middle East buying tea and coffee in Pakistan and India and Kashmir before that region imploded. But he also worked up in Southeast Alaska at what is called now it's called the Waterfall Resort. It's one of the largest and most successful fishing lodges in Southeast Alaska. It's on Prince of Wales Island. And before it was a fishing lodge, it was owned by a company called NACAT, which was a subsidiary of the A&P. And it provided all of the wild caught Alaskan canned salmon for all of the grocery stores in A&P's portfolio, which at its peak was over 400 or so stores, predominantly up and down the East Coast, but also making their way out west towards the Mississippi. And so he worked as a fisherman on one of the fishing boats there. And decades later, I went to Waterfall Lodge, and he had told me that he had carved his name on a certain beam in one of the processing plants, and they have not changed the processing plants. All the buildings are all still there, and I was able to actually find the beam.
No kidding.
And which was a really cool experience, kind of full circle.
Yeah.
But he fell in love with Southeast Alaska, working for A&P and working for NACAT, and at the same time watching these individuals and companies clear cutting the entire sides of mountains and just defacing the land. And so as an adult, when he became president and executive director of the McIntosh Foundation, he decided to take the McIntosh Foundation on a course of social justice and environmental justice work. And that is, fast forward now, we have the boat company, and that's how we ended up there.
So to recap in the fastest, way possible from someone who's not part of the family, but your family owned at a given time the largest grocery store chain in the country.
In the world.
In the world.
In the world at one point.
Okay. The Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, correct?
Yep, correct.
So your family owned it. Great grandfather to some degree. Great grandfather. And your father seems like it, as you said, it's through the blood. Your father was obviously probably the great grandchild or the grandchild of the founder of the grocery store chain, and he was tasked at one point with catching the fish, working on the fishing boats and getting the fish that were going to be sold in the grocery store chain.
Yep. Get his hands dirty.
And what ended up happening is his experience of being on that boat in Alaska, really affected him. And he saw the beauty of Southeast Alaska and of the Tongass National Forest. And, fast forward to a time period where he became president of the nonprofit foundation that your family started. When he became president, he created the boat company to bring numerous people up there to see this area, and hopefully people that could make an impact in some way, maybe some policymakers or
policymakers, people that have connections to their policymakers, individuals that can donate to the environmental organizations that are fighting the fights.
Yes, and really up there.
And really the first several years the boat company was in operation, all we did was bring donors up from Audubon, NRDC, Earth Justice, Defenders of Wildlife, World Wildlife Federation. I know I'm missing a handful, and I'm sorry if any of you all from those organizations are on here, but the list is long, and my memory is not. I would say the first 5 to 7 years of operation with one boat, we primarily worked solely with the environmental organizations, bringing their major donors up, until we eventually decided that, okay, we need to get a second boat, and we're going to actually try to turn this into a business.
Yeah, and so that's kind of where you've been really, I feel like, from what I know, that's where I feel like you've been really instrumental, is in, okay, you care so much about the environment and these policies as well, but you also understand the need to keep the boat company running as a business. So
Correct.
it sounds like your father was very, very much geared towards the nonprofit side. But I think now what's happening is, if I'm understanding correctly, there's kind of like the shift of not focus, but
Right.
just, let's help the boat company stand on its own and be this nonprofit on its own. Whereas when your father started it, it was through the McIntosh Foundation. And so I think one of your biggest, and to me, most powerful impacts has been your ability to help the boat company stand on its own as a nonprofit and not be part of another nonprofit in a way.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. The goal has always been to separate the boat company from the family foundation, so that it can operate as its own operating not-for-profit, which it is, and which it does. It's a challenge in the industry, as anybody who has ever owned a boat knows. The two happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy their boat and the day they sell their boat. And the whole saying that, what does a boat stand for? Bust out another 1,000, because they're money pits. Well, imagine having World War II wooden-hulled naval minesweepers. That figure is considerably higher than 1,000. But really, the goal for me has always been to continue my father's legacy of conservation work, to hopefully one day finally put what we refer to as the Tongass Timber Wars to bed. We thought we had done that shortly after he passed away, but then the state and the timber industry filed more lawsuits in federal court to take the Tongass out of the roadless rule, and so it's the same fight 45 years later. Yeah. that actually started the company, that is still happening today. And Southeast Alaska's got a lot of other problems, with ocean acidification, with temperature of the oceans rising, and Alaska being one of the main providers of wild-caught salmon worldwide. They're seeing a huge fluctuation of return of salmon to their spawning grounds. The numbers some years the numbers come in great, other years they barely come in at all. And so we've got a lot of other really pressing conservation issues that we want to try to get involved with, also because of the way we operate our boats and the uniqueness of our trips in offering both fresh and saltwater fishing every day, which no one else does. Right. But we're still fighting this timber war. And I never thought in a million years that I would be on phone calls, second generation, fighting the same fight as the first generation. I thought for sure we would have moved on to fisheries issues or habitat restoration or other things, but we're still fighting the same fight. But my goal has always been, and will continue to be, to put the boat company in a position where it can be a leader not only in the small ship luxury cruise market, as a semi-private yacht charter, but also as a voice connecting individuals who have the ability to help make change and make differences back home and on Capitol Hill, but also at the same time providing a great experience where you can go out every day and get as muddy and fishy and smelly as you want, and then come back to the boat and have a long hot shower, and make yourself presentable so that your wife doesn't kick you out of the cabin, and then go out and have a gourmet meal and great wine, and then do it all over again the next day. So I've really tried to we've really tried to switch the focus more towards a boutique floating hotel, or that experience with an educational aspect, of
Yes.
what we do.
I mean, for me, this is a really big deal, and this is part of why I'm so attached to the boat company and have been so moved by the boat company. Obviously, I've been on one of the trips years ago, and this is extremely important in my opinion. Like this nonprofit is extremely important because you're doing two very, very special things. And just to grossly simplify it, it's, there is a major nonprofit over here that is the boat company. They're the same nonprofit, same cruise line, but they're doing two completely, what feels like it's hard to think that both things are happening at the same time, but there are two very major actions going on. And one is giving this incredible experience to human beings who are passengers on that trip, where there's only, 20 guests on your boat with you, and the privacy and the intimacy and the immersion that you have of getting your feet onto the Tongass, whether that's into the water and waders or onto the forest soil every single day, if that's what you choose on the boat, and having just this incredible gourmet, food. You get closer to the glaciers because you're in smaller boats, and you're packed homemade chocolate chip cookies that morning from the chefs, with hot chocolate with Bailey's that comes onto your little skiffs with you as we all, descend into our skiffs, as if the big boat doesn't get close enough to the glacier, but the skiffs, that come with every boat, the smaller boats, we get to get even closer to the glacier. And so, the chef,
Not too close, not too close.
not too close.
Remarkably, as close as you get to the glacier, from a distance back, you look like an ant, in the skiff, with the glacier behind you, but you're still more than a quarter of a mile away. We get no more than we try to get no more than quarter of a mile away. Every once in a while, we'll have some crew members get a little bit daring, or they'll have some thrill seekers in their skiffs that egg them on to get them to go a little closer. But we're also, at the same time, not only are you looking at the glacier, but you're looking at an area that is what is referred to as a calving ground for harbor seals. And the times that we're up there, on any given day, you're going to see half a dozen to a dozen harbor seals that might have, 3 or 4 day old pups with them.
Oh yeah, they are so cute.
They're very cute and very tiny. So it's and then you look up on the sides of the fjords up above, and you have folks like our first mate on the Mist Cove, Brent Holbrook, who's got eagle eyes and can spot a Dall sheep that's walking along the side of a sheer cliff like it's nothing. And then he says, "Oh yeah, Hunter, it's right up there." And so I get my binoculars and I look, and I still can't find it. It's you experience stuff like that, on any given trip, and any given day, right? And it's magical.
And so there's that whole piece, and we probably can talk more about that in a minute, just how special the cruise itself is. But what I just wanted to say was the second part that's going on alongside, and just as important, is the nonprofit aspect, and that the boat company, for anyone who doesn't know, has reinvested over $30 million back into the Tongass National Forest in its time. $30 million. It's getting close to 35, I think you said the other day, Hunter. It's getting there. Okay, so over $30 million this company this nonprofit, I'm sorry, I keep calling it a company, but this nonprofit has put back into the Tongass. So some people, and we don't want to, I don't want to take that away from anyone, but when you're on the boat, you're having such an incredible experience. You're able to dictate exactly what you want to do any day. You have an option of, you can, you go up to the guest coordinator and she says, do you want to kayak today, Marissa? Or do you want to ride a skiff to, a fly fishing spot and descend and wade through the waters and fly fish all day? Or would you like to go on a hike with the naturalists? Or would you like to stay, inside and read a book? What would you like to do? Would you like to go salt fishing for the big fish? Crabbing? I mean, these are the options. Almost every single day you have all like 5 of those options almost every single day. I mean, it's incredible. Except for glacier viewing day. I mean, that's all anybody wants to do is go see the glaciers. But and to do this with only 20 other people on a boat with you, and that's all you see for 6-7 days, that's all you see are those people. You really have this chance to have this super intimate experience. And I mean, our trip that I went on, we about halfway through, we saw 3 other human beings, and that was it for the entire. And they had flown in on a float plane and had decided to hike a trail that we were on, and that was it. And I remember when I disembarked in Juneau, I was actually shell shocked by civilization, because I was the trip that started from Sitka and went up to Juneau, and I ended up in Juneau, and I was shell shocked. I was like, woo, here's a bunch of people. But so, it's a really special experience every day. And, but okay, so to digress, we're getting some comments coming in here, and I just want to mention some. And then we also do have a VIP guest with us who joined, Justin Donnelly. We're going to bring him in 1 second, but I just want to go through some. I think there's been a comment, 1 or 2 have been a little funny, so gotta tell them to you, Hunter. This one's not funny. I'm not going to say it's funny. It's very true. It's from Rich Ackerman, and he says, geez, Hunter, you haven't aged a bit.
Rich, you are too kind.
And then Pamela Tilton says, hi, Hunter. Rhonda Lee says, looking good, Hunter. Mackie McNamara says he was also a fan of Public Enemy with a heart. Maybe he was
that would be my father. My father, Tommy, aka Mackie McNamara, is an old Palm Beach friend from 35, 40 years ago. What's up, Tommy? Thanks for joining. Much love. Tommy introduced my dad to a bunch of original hip hop and rap artists, and my dad and Tommy would sit and listen to them. Back in the day.
Oh,
yep. So, but that is 100% too.
That's funny.
Yep.
How cool! I love that people get to have it's
something that you would not expect of my father. Well,
yeah, but they get to, somebody knows your father, so it's cool. For those who have just maybe traveled on the boat company cruise, and you haven't actually gotten to know the family behind it. I mean, you're
getting to see it.
Yeah, now you get to see the families and the generations behind it. We also have a Steve Feiner who says, I remember having to wait to go stream fishing for the bear to finish first.
Yes, Steve, that happens frequently. If you're not backing out. A funny story, I think the one time that we have ever had an extremely close encounter with bears, where we and the crew were actually scared, happened because of one of my brothers and I. We hiked up. We were going to one of our favorite fishing spots, and we hiked ahead of the group, probably by about 150 or so yards. To get to the hole first, so we could start fly fishing ahead of everybody else, because we didn't want anybody else catching our fish. And we hear over the radio, Hunter, you might want to turn around. And about 75 yards behind us and about 75 yards ahead of the group, a sow and 2 cubs had walked in between the group and had firmly planted themselves in the stream, and they weren't going anywhere.
No.
So we ended up having to basically ford across the stream, which turned out to be a lot deeper than we thought, filled our waders completely up, and walk back around, giving the bear as much room and space as we could, and then ford across the stream again back to the group, at which point we all got back on a skiff and left, because the mother bear and her cubs were not leaving, and they were there for hours. We could see them from the main boat. That's thankfully the closest we've ever had to run-ins with bears.
I'm all about, I do bear photography, so I get excited. I love it. But I want to see when this comment came in, if it came in before or after your story. Okay, so I see 12:36 Eastern time right now, but at 12:34, so I think I think he heard your story, and it still says, this is from a Bill Eisler.
Mm-hmm.
It says, can't wait for our trip, July 2025. We are so excited. So I guess you didn't scare him off with your bear story.
Oh, no. You know, there's one of the best books on the boat is, and I'm not going to get the name of the book right, but it's something like Alaskan Grizzly Tales. And it's all stories about bear maulings, and people that survived. And it's fascinating. And I will tell you that 99% of them happen up on Kodiak Island and up in the mainland of Alaska, not in Southeast.
Right.
So you don't have to be concerned with that. And we make a lot of noise. And if you're ever on a trip with my wife or I, you're going to have a lot of noise, because my wife has a very healthy, honest and healthy fear of bears, and carries a Swiss cowbell that you can hear from a mile away. And a number of years ago, I took my mom in. We buried some of my father's ashes in Kelp Bay, which was one of his favorite spots. And my mother and I were in the area where we had done this, and my wife had given me grief and forced me to take this cowbell with me. And she was out either in a skiff or kayaking. I mean, well away from where we were. I mean, not in shouting distance at all. But my mother and I heard two bears fighting. And I started ringing that bell. We had no idea where the bears were or anything like that. I started ringing that bell, and Amber, I got back to the boat, and she just smiled and looked at me and said, "Aren't you happy you had the bell?" I've never been so happy to have such a loud noisemaker in my life.
Go Amber. I love her. I don't know. I think she's my favorite half.
Anyway, let's this VIP, Mr. Donnelly.
Yeah, let's get him in. Let's get him in. He's been waiting long enough. All right.
Hey, how are you guys doing today?
Hello.
Justin, thank you so much for joining. Just in case you all don't know how he's on, we love him. But so that's part of it. But just to let you all know, if you're subscribed to our newsletter, that's probably how you knew we were going live today. But and we're going to be doing this more. We're not leaving you during cruise season. We're really making an effort to be accessible during on land season. I call it. I don't know. There's probably a better way to call it. But I call it the non-cruising season. We're going to try to make ourselves more available, and hopefully do a live stream a month. I'm hoping next month maybe I can get one of our captains instead of Hunter, and then the next month maybe a naturalist. But in that e-blast, the first two people to email us back with a question gets to take a VIP seat and gets to get on air with us, even though we're answering your questions typed in here. You can get on air and you can actually dialogue with Hunter a little bit. So Justin's here. Thank you so much for joining us, Justin, and being a VIP on-air guest. Have at it. Just right. Go at him.
Well, here you go. So Hunter and I have known each other for quite a long time, and have done a lot of amazing things with the boat company. But I always come back to one big question, and I think a lot of people have that same one, is you spoke a little bit about being a second generation, having to get your hands dirty, having to do all these things that your dad taught you. And for most most people that grow up that way, they're like really don't fall in love with what their dad's passion was. And I really want to hear like why you fell in love with that part of the activism and to be such a strong figure in basically pushing your father's lifelong dream of actually keeping the Songus intact.
Wow.
That's a really good question. And I think that for me, we shared a same passion and love for the Tongass, but we look at it in two very different lenses. You know, my dad was the consummate conservationist, and he he looked at it from the standpoint of, you know, here is an industry that is basically raping the land that belongs to all of us, to the benefit of very few, that's getting subsidized by the federal government more than any of the farming subsidies. At one point, we had economists do some work for us and discover that back in the late 90s, for every timber industry job in Southeast Alaska, the federal government was providing subsidies close to $500,000, which if you take that and compare it to corn, soy, wheat, all the different farm subsidies, it outpaced it exponentially. So, you know, he was passionate about that. He was a fiscally conservative, socially liberal Republican. You know, you know, Rockefeller Republican, Dixiecrat, you know, lots of different names. But at the end of the day, he was protecting and preserving it because he wanted other people to see it, and he was tired of seeing the government cut it down. For me, I like to think of myself as the consummate outdoorsman, much to the dismay of some members in my family. I hunt. I love to hunt. I bow hunt. I rifle hunt. And so for me, I look at it as a way of getting out into nature, climbing up in a tree, stalking a deer, whatever the case may be, and getting out of the rat race of the lower 48, and trying to preserve and protect that same area for totally different reasons. And so that's, you know, that's how I look at it. You know, it's I'm continuing on his legacy,
Right.
Of conservation and preservation, because I love to fish for salmon. He loved to fish for salmon. Let's not get anything wrong there. He had an inflatable boat with a 25 horsepower engine that he would have the crew inflate and put in the water. And at 4:30 in the morning, while everybody else was still sleeping, he'd be out fishing by himself in peace with his coffee, and he'd come back having caught his entire limit for the day before anybody else had gotten out of bed.
Right.
That was affectionately referred to as the rubber ducky. But you know, his passion was protecting and saving the forest from deforestation and from to use a term from, I think it was back in the day, NBC, the fleecing of America. Right. You know, the fleecing of our federal lands that belong to all of us for the benefit of a few. And you know, while I take the same approach, I take it from more of the outdoorsman's approach, where if you start taking all this land, there's not going to be any habitat for me to go out and enjoy my hunt. Now, I will say that, you know, 9 times out of 10, actually 5 times out of 5 so far that I've gone up to Alaska and gone Sitka black-tailed deer hunting, I've come back with pictures, and that's it.
Yes.
Whether the deer have been too far away or they've been on the other side of a ravine that I did not want to climb down and back up to carry the meat for any number of reasons. But every time has been, just I come back, feeling 20 pounds lighter for the experience.
Yeah.
And so that's where that's where we differ. It's the same passion, but just from a different lens, I would say.
Yeah.
Good way to look at it, actually, from a different lens.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I like that, actually. I like that a lot. Well, thank you. Thanks for answering that. It was a great. Actually, that answered a lot of stuff for me. So.
And for those of you that are on here, Justin and his family have been doing all of the printing for the boat company for over 20 years now. That's how far we go back, and he'll be getting ready to print a new sales brochure here soon, and then we'll start work on our new Observer magazine, which will be coming to you all in the mail end of October, beginning of November at the latest. Yes. So keep an eye out for that. There's a little plug there for the Observer.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much, Justin, for joining us. I'm gonna send you backstage so you can go be free. Thanks for taking time out of your work day to be with us. And
thank you, Marissa. I appreciate it.
And yeah, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Take care, Justin.
Yeah, there's a lot of generational, it's so funny. Hunter knew my family before I was even born.
Good.
Not to age you. Sorry, Hunter. But yeah, so there's just a lot of family. And actually, one of the cool things, this is the more that I've worked with the boat company, the more I know that there's a mother and a daughter working with the boat company, that's really cool. There's a couple of those, I think. So very, very cool. We also have a comment from Mr. Tilton saying, I know my Drenda, Tilton, and my kids had so much fun, still talking about it 3 months later. And Drenda, potentially, oh yeah, must be his wife.
This is Pam. I think this is Pam. This is Drenda's daughter.
Oh, Drenda's daughter.
Yeah, Pamela.
Oh, so she took her. Okay, I see a different
gentleman's picture. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, it's just that's pretty cool. Pam, thanks for sharing that with us. And it's Drenda is a part of the boat company as well. So she got on the boat this year after working for us for a number of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so we have some other, thank you so much, Marilyn. Been on 3 cruises with the boat company, each trip different and fabulous. That's very sweet of you. That is what we aim to do. Very, very important to us. And we also have Brian White saying that Glacier Day is breathtaking, and it is. It's probably my favorite day. And just a few other comments that everybody will be able to see. And then,
here's Kathy. Kathy has been with us for 28 years.
Yes,
started off as a varnisher.
This is history.
Moved her way onto the boats as a stew, and now holds down the fort and answers everybody's questions in Paul's Boat, and couldn't do it without her.
You would think an answering machine answered. Her voice is so beautiful and perfect. Like, hello, is this a human? Because she just has such a lovely and upbeat and just beautiful voice. But so I wonder what she's talking about. He loved his rubber ducky. Did you
that's his little boat that he used to take out fishing. Kathy was on the crew. Kathy was on the crew when my father would do that.
Oh.
So they provide him with some sandwiches, some coffee, and he'd be off.
Oh. Uh-oh. There's another comment.
Kathy, I just didn't want to date the two of us. But okay, 34 years.
Gotta love it. Kathy has her facts.
Yeah.
She's actually the person that you talk to when you call to make a reservation. And we have a pretty cool website now, and you can learn a lot about our trips through those websites, but through our website. But it's actually still not, quite bookable on the website, and maybe one day it will be. But part of that is by design. Once you talk to Kathy on the phone, that's something that just can't be displayed on a website. The experience.
Well, Marissa, if I could interject, that's one of the things we're actually working on now.
Yeah.
Is that we're working on the ability for you, everybody, to be able to at least start their reservation online. At which point, once they make a reservation online, then it'll be routed, through the system, and at which point it'll be picked up by Kathy or one of her team to hold your hand and finish the process up. Yeah.
And she's a great one to hold your hand through the process. It's really a white glove experience to talk to her. So that'll be really cool that we'll have that ability to be able to start that registration process online and
then continue it in person.
Yeah.
The in-person thing is what makes the boat company different from anybody else.
Absolutely.
The personal touch. And that's why I think we're trying to get away from the terms cruising, or not cruising, but cruise ship and that sort of thing, and trying to go more towards the philosophy of private yacht charter. Just because with us, you're going to get that hands-on VIP service, if you want to call it VIP, concierge service, many different words in the hospitality industry that define it. But on any given day, if somebody wants to call and talk to me, we're not such a big company that you can't pick up the phone and call the office and get a hold of me, or anybody else in the company for that matter. None of us are too big for our britches. We've all held different positions in the company. We've all, in one way, shape, or form, probably washed dishes in the galley, or many other things. I did see a question that came through, Marissa, that I do want to add. I just want to touch. It's from Mr. Webb. Do we have any non-alcoholic cruises? We don't have any non-alcoholic cruises, but you don't have to drink when you're on the boat. I know that's a very sensitive. It can be a very sensitive topic for a lot of folks, because we do have an open bar. It is self-serve, but as far as exclusively all non-alcoholic, we might have had in the past decades one or two whole boat charters that have asked us to put the alcohol away. But for the most part, it's there. It's available for anybody that would like it, but it's not forced on you, obviously. I saw that and just wanted to answer that, because that was a unique question that I don't think I've ever seen that question asked before. So
yeah, and it's maybe something, if we get enough requests, we can try to put everybody on the same cruise if that's something that they want. We only have so much time left. I can't believe we're almost at the end here. But I'm just trying to and once again,
looks like a lot of the chats are folks chatting back and forth with Kathy that they haven't talked to in a long time.
I know.
Best way to talk to Kathy is to call and book another trip.
Yeah,
We'd love to have you back.
Actually, hang on one second, because there's Kathy's number.
Just in case.
Poor Kathy. If anybody wants to talk to Kathy, just call her today. I'm sure she's just hanging out. No, she's probably so busy. But yeah, no. So that's the number that you would call to make the reservation, and it is on our website. The website is theboatcompany.com, theboatcompany.org.
That's the .org.
Yeah,
they both work. But
both
because of the not-for-profit, we do put .org.
we really try to emphasize the .org. So we're theboatcompany.org, but we own a number of various domains. So theboatcompany.com, we kept that. If you have that /reserve, that'll just take you straight to our schedule for 2025 and bookings for 2025. And then, but you know, in the last couple minutes, I think I'm going to throw potentially a little bit of a wrench, because we do have a question from someone, and I think it's important to go back to, because you, Hunter, are probably, you know, with the people I'm going to be talking to in the future and doing live streams with in the future from the company are going to be, you know, the captain and the naturalist. And, you know, maybe one day I can get, you know, someone in you know, the more of the conservation and legal side, but I do want to just you know, someone had mentioned, one of our customers had mentioned, she was on one of our cruises, and she was just talking about how, you know, the information about how much little is left of Dawes Glacier and the long-term impact to the area. And I think it's you know, she's talking about trees, salmon, bears in the water, and you know, it's you know, I've even noticed it too from my 2018 trip to the pictures that I'm seeing come through this year. You know, I think there was like a whole iceberg that used to be there that I haven't seen yet in any pictures.
I know it's gone. The Dawes Glacier, I believe it was Dawes Glacier, actually is no longer touching the water. And I could be wrong. One of the glaciers that we go to, you know, the Tracy's Arm, it splits up. You've got Endicott and Tracy, and one of the two glaciers, and forgive me but I'd rather, I don't know which one it is, but they were both tidal glaciers, which means they came down into the water. And over the past 2 to 3 years, one of the two of them is no longer touching the water, and is now considered what's called is it a hanging glacier?
Yeah.
This is where we need my naturalists. But it's, again, no longer touching the water, and you can see the land underneath it. And I can, you know, for over the past 40 some odd years, obviously, I've been going up Tracy's Arm to Dawes Glacier and up Endicott. And if you were to go up into the wheelhouse and pull out the NOAA paper charts from when the last time the paper charts were produced by NOAA, which goes back to the late 80s, I believe, and you were to look at where we are on the charts versus where we are on the electronic maps and our GPS tells us that we're over 1.5 miles up onto the glacier.
Oh my gosh.
So in the past 20 plus years, the glacier has receded over 1.5 miles, which is an enormous amount of water that has, you know, that has gone into the ocean. And you know, so we're seeing, you know, in Alaska's known for 25 foot tidal zones.
Yeah.
You know, and the native Alaskans have a saying, when the tide is out, our table is set. You know, when the tide is out, they would go out and collect oysters, clams, shellfish, kelp, you name it, and bring it back up for their meals. You know, so we really are seeing a change. I mean, climate change is something that it shouldn't be a controversial topic. It's happening. We see it every day. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. I've got an aunt over near Pensacola, and we've got a potential Class 4 hurricane hitting us in the next 3 days. Hurricanes have gotten larger and stronger and more frequent. You know, we're having more wildfires, not only in the lower 48. They're getting wildfires up in Alaska now as well. Not necessarily in the Tongass, because it is a temperate rainforest. There is enough water, but because of the rise in the oceans, because of the possible desalination. And of course, this goes into a lot of science and I'm not a scientist. It's just things that I have friends that are involved in, that I believe is happening. It's my belief that, desalination, because of the runoff from the glaciers and the disappearance of the glaciers, not only in Alaska, but in the Arctic and Antarctic, is going to change, global climate. We see more 100-degree days here in Florida than we ever have. And Marissa and I were born and raised here, and we never had 100-degree days when I was a kid. And so we're seeing all these impacts up in Alaska, whether it be for the salmon. There's a food shortage potentially. The salmon runs are coming in smaller. They're coming in later in the year. The king salmon run was completely shut down for fishing in one of the areas that we operate in towards the end of the season, which has never happened. So climate change is definitely something that is impacting a great deal of what we see in Southeast Alaska. But to pinpoint exactly how it's impacting, I think is really difficult to do. I mean, the only real thing we can pinpoint is the fact that glacier used to be 2 miles farther out back in the 80s. And we have documents of that. And I don't know if it's on NOAA's website or the Forest Service website, but there is a time lapse. One of the federal government agencies set up a time lapse camera in Tracy's Arm, and there is a time lapse photography of the recession of the glacier over the decades, and it's really kind of depressing to watch.
Yeah.
So.
And I've experienced this also in mainland Alaska as well. I've gone up there a few times and taken a little tender boat and with groups before. And the guides have told us, they say, we used to be able to not access this glacier. We used to not be able to even turn down this entire body of water that we turned down to get to a glacier. They're like, we used to not be able to even turn down this because it was all ice, and we'd be like a mile in. And this is just in 10, 15, 20 years. So it's hard to, but so to Patricia's comment, I just want to, kind of revert back. And I know we're actually over time now, and it's actually really cool because I can see how many people are still with us, and it's about as many as had just started. So I guess we're interesting, Hunter. But
we've got a lot of great boat company friends.
Yeah,
or actually, and family,
or just great people. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to Patricia's comment, what I want to say is, because this is one of my biggest initiatives, being part of the boat company is awareness and raising awareness. And, when Hunter says he has friends that know more of the science, Hunter is an advocate for that science, even though he can't get maybe as detailed into it, but he's getting the people in the right places, talking to the right people, because Hunter cares about this stuff. And so, you can only do so much. Before you start having to delegate. And I know that he's doing that. And I know that he's been doing that. And a testament to that is that, this organization, this nonprofit, has put over $30 million back into protections of this forest. I mean, Hunter knows things about bycatch that's happening in the water there. I mean, he has a list of things he's ready to go after, and starting to go after. And that we've been going after for 40 years, and we're still going after, like you said, with the logging. But what I want to say, reverting back to my part in my initiative, is to raise more awareness, because this company started as, mainly word of mouth, and it's always been word of mouth. And you all may have noticed, those of you who have been with, been fans or family or passengers for decades, you may have noticed we have a new website over the last year or two. We've been doing a little bit more marketing, and my goal is to raise awareness of this organization, of this nonprofit, of the boat company as an alternative to, mass tourism. and the impacts of mass tourism. And the ecotourism, which is one of the best describing factors of our cruise line, is ecotourism. It helps keep profit in the local economy. It helps develop programs and services and products in these areas rather than deplete the natural resources. So in fact, helping keep those natural resources so that these types of tourisms can continue. But
Melissa, I think that's a great place for me to finish up here, and that is to talk a little bit briefly about what I see in our immediate future and in the next 5 to 7 years, 5 to 10 years. And that is, our focus is getting back to our roots. And by roots, I mean we're exploring the possibility of returning to some of our former destinations that we used to start and end trips with. I'm not going to say too much because I don't want people calling Kathy saying, when are you going to do this? When I haven't decided whether we're going to be able to do it or not, because there are so many different factors involved. In a post-COVID world, the cruising industry has changed exponentially. And that's something important that we have to recognize. We can't rest on our laurels of relying on repeat customers and word of mouth anymore, because we need to have we need to start bringing in new clients that can start spreading the word and the gospel of the boat company. As I like to say, get more people in to drink the Kool-Aid. With that, we are getting back to our roots in that we're going to start working more with some of the local NGOs in Southeast Alaska, who not only do projects that benefit small operators like the boat company and others, but they're projects that also benefit the local communities. One of them is an organization called Sitka Trail Works. If you've ever gone on the Sea Lion Cove trail hike, that is a hike that we have, or a trail that the boat company has helped fund the restoration of on numerous occasions, that takes you from the Inside Passage all the way out to the Pacific Ocean. I am sad to say that the last time I attempted that hike, I didn't even make it to the lake, which is halfway, before I was exhausted and my legs said no mas. But so that's something I have to work on. But Sitka Trail Works, they work on trails all around Sitka, all around Southeast Alaska. So we're going to be trying to pour more money into that organization. We're also going to be working with them to try to get some of our crew members certified as trail rehabilitation specialists, which is going to take some time and money that we're going to have to raise to do that. So that when our boats get up early in the season, when they're going to some of these trails that have got a lot of blowdown from the winter storms, they'll be able to bring chainsaws with them and whatnot, and be authorized under Sitka Trail Works permits to help clear the trails, not only for us, but for the locals as well. And it's a great way to give back to the community and be more hands-on. Another thing we're going to be working on is with the Sitka Raptor Center. And this one is a little bit near and dear to our hearts because back in January, for those of you that saw the last newsletter, we lost our Director of Conservation, Chris Soderstrom, in a house fire. And Chris, before she worked for us, worked for a number of NGOs in Alaska. And before that, she was involved in ornithology, which was a surprise to me. I actually didn't know that, and I had worked with her for 20 plus years on and off on different projects. So we are working on a program with the Sitka Raptor Center. They are in the process of building out all new aviaries, and we are going to name one of the aviaries in Sitka after Chris, and the work that she did to protect the Tongass and the state that she loves so dearly. And then we're also working with Fortress of the Bear, which is a bear rehab and restoration and rehab facility in Sitka as well. There are some organizations in Juneau we're looking to work with that have to do with kelp farming, which is a great way of carbon sequestration. It's also a very profitable business, but it's very young and very new. So we're getting involved in other areas that we've never been involved in before, but they're all local. They all support the local communities, and we hope to really help, on a local level. After so many decades of helping or trying to help on a federal level, we do want to get back to our roots of the local level, let the locals know that there's a new generation running the organization, that we haven't disappeared. We're still here. We still care. And we still plan on bringing lots of folks into town every year. So that's kind of a snapshot of where we're headed from a local standpoint. I figured that was probably a good place to kind of end.
Absolutely, Hunter. And I think just to kind of end on that note is, again, this awareness that we're trying to raise and what we're trying to do, and just, again, like, I think this conversation with Hunter was more, a great introduction into the live streams that we're going to be trying to do over the next couple of months. Obviously start with the president, but also because he can talk from a very high level about, the conservation side of the nonprofit, and then the actual cruise experience itself. Hopefully we answered some of your questions on that. And then I'm just going to selfishly plug again that, we are trying to raise awareness of ecotourism as an alternative for conservation reasons. There's a very, very real difference between our boats that take 20 passengers versus, the boats next to us in Juneau that take how many passengers, Hunter? Like 4,000?
Thousands. They're getting bigger every year.
A boat.
Yeah.
Per boat. And there are many of these boats, and we take 20 to 20. Would you say our how many we take in a year is like 600 a year?
If we run at full capacity, we take roughly 750 passengers a year.
And one other boat sitting next to us in the harbor there in Juneau will be taking 4 times that in 5 days.
Yeah.
And there's many of them. And so the impact of that is quite grand. And so we appreciate you all being a part of listening in and learning more about our company and the things that we're doing. Part of one of the initiatives of raising more awareness is to, we've been going, this is the first year I've pushed Hunter for us to actually go for some awards. And so you can see a little banner below I put up earlier, but there are the World Cruise Awards happening right now. And we're nominated in 6 different categories. And if you click on, if you go to worldcruiseawards.com/nominees/2024, or I'll go ahead and put the comment in this video as well. I'll put the link right there. But if you vote for us, it helps us get recognized on a world scale. And we're up against boats that are 3 times our size. And we're recognized in categories of green and small ship. And so those are things that we're really trying to bring to the mass, to the world, to know that there's another way to travel, and a way that has a better outcome for nature and the world.
Okay.
Anything else you want to close with, Hunter?
No, it's Marissa has been dogging me to do something like this for months, and I was petrified to do it, but it was relatively harmless, relatively painless. So I want to thank Marissa for scheduling this. I'd like to thank everybody who got on and attended. Unfortunately, I can't see how many people were on or off, which is a good thing, because I probably would have been frustrated and wondering why aren't more people on, or oh my God, there's too many people on. I'm freaked out. So thank you for not sharing that number with me.
I will not. And we did have a question. I just want to let you all know that, this video is live, but once we are done, once I end the stream in about 2 seconds here, it is going to live on all of our social channels. So it is going to be on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Instagram. We did not get that Twitter sync today. Last minute, they decided to tell me, even though I synced us last week, they said that we need to be a premium member. Didn't know that until 5 minutes before we went live. So, so we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. You will be able to see this. It will save to our profile. And there are some people who who came in a little bit later and they're asking how they can watch the whole thing. So that's how you can watch it. It's gonna be a video, just like a regular video post. And you can refer back to this, and feel free to continue writing comments on the actual posted video. And we can continue to respond to you. We try to be really responsive to people on social media. So thank you all so much for joining us. And thank you, Hunter.
Thank you. And until next time, we'll see you all later.
Yeah, stay tuned, everyone. I'm going to try to get a captain or a naturalist next time. Definitely put in some comments if you want somebody else.
All righty.
Thank you all so much.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.